Now we are starting another topic, that is motor unit and its property, right? So here I have made one diagram already, that is the cross section of the spinal cord. All of you know that the motor neuron arises from the anterior part of the spinal cord. Okay, so suppose this is one motor neuron. All of us know that this motor neuron will give rise to some terminal part that is known as the telodendria, which contain vesicles, and each of these telodendria will make synapse with one muscle fiber like this. So 3 muscle fiber, and this junction with this telodendria, that means motor neuron with this muscle fiber or muscle cell, is nothing but the neuromuscular junction that we have discussed in central nervous system, right? Okay, now not only this one motor neuron will be there will be thousands of motor neuron in a single node. There may be thousands. Okay, so suppose I am drawing another one here, another motor neuron. Okay, like this. Again it is dividing into multiple part. 4, suppose this is 4, and each of these 4 will again make synapse with 4 muscle fiber. So basically this is your total skeletal muscle. Inside the skeletal muscle, multiple muscle fiber are there, and this is your motor nerve. In here V, nerve. Nerve is composed of multiple fiber that we have already discussed in neuron chapter, right? So now if you look at the muscle, skeletal muscle, it is composed of multiple fiber, and multiple fiber are supplied by different motor neuron. So what is motor unit? Unit means, look at this diagram, tell me if I stimulate this red color motor neuron, how many muscle fiber is going to contract simultaneously? Simple. Number 1, number 2, number 3. 3 muscle fiber is going to contract simultaneously. Means this 3 skeletal muscle fiber, they are acting as a unit, and this is known as motor unit. So by definition, motor unit means it is the single motor neuron and the number of skeletal muscle fibers supplied by it, supplied by this neuron, right? So this is the definition. I have to remember, single motor neuron and the number of muscle fiber, they are making as a unit, and that unit is known as the motor unit. So how many motor unit you are finding out in this diagram? Simple, 2 motor unit I have made here. There are multiples, I told you thousands maybe. Okay, so this red color neuron motor unit is smaller cell body, okay, and this green color, that is the larger motor unit, because it is supplying 4 muscle fibers simultaneously, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is the larger motor unit. Now normally we know skeletal muscle maintains some partial contracted state, and that partial contracted state is known as the muscle tone. So what is muscle tone? Muscle tone means partial contracted state of the skeletal muscle in resting condition. So why the resting condition muscle will remain in a partial contracted state? Remember like this, that our cerebral cortex or brain stimulate or inhibit this motor neuron depending on different brain area. Normally the discharge from this motor neuron is asynchronous. Asynchronous. What do you mean by asynchronous? Means suppose when the red color neuron is discharging, the green color neuron will take rest. So when the red color neuron is discharging, 3 muscle is already contracted state. So muscle is in a partial contracted state. Now next time when this green color muscle motor neuron is contracting, the red color is taking rest. That means again the 4 muscle fiber will contract, but this 3 muscle will take rest. That means always this asynchronous discharge will continue from spinal cord. Always the continuous discharge is going on. Asynchronous. If there is synchronous, then all the muscle fiber will contract. That is not done normally. Normally there is asynchronous, and this asynchronous discharge maintain the partial contracted state within the muscle. That is our muscle tone. So this asynchronous discharge of motor neuron, okay, is known as muscle tone, partial contracted state. Now also I hope you know, I will give the concept completely in central nervous system, but for the time being remember this neuron which I have drawn here, which I have made here, they are known as the lower motor neuron. Lower motor neuron means from this spinal cord level up to this neuromuscular junction. This neuron is known as the lower motor neuron. If there is damage to this lower motor neuron, suppose I have cut this lower motor neuron, what will happen to this partial contracted state? Obviously muscle will not remain in a contracted state. That's why we say this muscle tone is lost in lower motor neuron damage, right? That is the concept of lower muscle tone and lower motor neuron here. Detailed concept of lower motor neuron will be discussed in central nervous system topic. Now I told you that motor unit size is variable. It may be smaller, it may be larger. You have to answer for NEET PG that smallest size motor unit and largest size motor unit example where they are present. So I am writing here motor unit, smallest size, okay. Smallest size motor unit means one motor neuron is supplying 3 to 6 muscle fibers. That is the smallest size motor unit present in our body. One motor neuron supplying 3 to 6 muscle fiber. Where they are present? The small muscles of the fingers, okay, these are the muscles. So small muscles of fingers as well as the extraocular muscles. The extraocular muscles which are the smallest size motor unit present in our body. 1:3 to 6. Okay, so obviously question will be largest size motor unit. So largest motor unit, where they are located? Lower limb and muscles of back and lower limb muscles. Like for example, the gastrocnemius muscles in the lower leg, they has a ratio of one motor neuron supplying 600 to 2000 skeletal muscle fiber. Okay, so large one 1:600 or 2000 muscle fiber. Now I told you that this motor unit are under the control of cerebral cortex. Okay, so imagine that this is your brain. So this is your brain. He is signaling this motor unit for contraction. Okay, just take an example that I want to lift certain load. Okay, suppose this is the mobile. I want to lift this mobile with my hand. Okay, so what will happen? Muscle will contract. Muscle means it is composed of multiple motor unit. Which motor unit will contract earliest? At the beginning, or सबसे पहले at the beginning, which motor unit will be contracted? Smaller size or larger size? What the brain will do? Always remember, the smallest size motor unit, they are fatigue resistant motor unit. They supply fatigue resistance muscle. So they will not fatigue easily. Smallest size motor unit. So obviously you will want to give the job to the smallest size first. Okay. Then you contract the smallest size motor unit. If the force is adequate to lift your load, then do nothing. But if the force is not adequate to lift your load, you have to stimulate the additional motor unit. Additional motor unit means smallest, after that larger, then largest. This is known as the recruitment principle. What do you mean by that? Means when the brain is stimulating the motor unit, at the beginning first the smallest size motor unit will be activated. If the force generated by the muscle is adequate to do the job, then done. But if the force is not adequate, then the brain will try to activate the nearer, larger motor unit. And if the job is done, again nothing is. But again, if required, it will activate the largest motor unit in our body. So this is known as recruitment principle of motor unit. Okay, what is the principle? First, smallest size motor unit followed by larger motor unit followed by largest motor unit. That means start from small one. If your job is done, if your job is not done, then go for the larger one. That is the recruitment principle. Then when your job is done, you have to de-recruit. So de-recruitment principle. How it will be done? Who will get easily fatigue? The larger one. So first you relieve the largest. Then you relieve which are fatigue resistance one. So de-recruitment in the opposite direction. First the largest, from largest to larger, then at the last smallest motor unit. So that's why it is said recruited fast is de-recruited last. So I am writing like this: recruited first is de-recruited at the last. This is known as the size principle, first time described by Henneman, scientist. So that's why this is known as Henneman, Henneman's size principle. Okay, so this is known as the Henneman size principles. Smallest size followed by larger, and during de-recruitment opposite direction. This was already MCQ. Okay, right. So this is the motor unit recruitment principle. So easily you can understand from this discussion that if you recruit more and more motor unit, what will happen to the force generated by the muscle? Obviously force generation will be increased. But suppose I have only 2 motor unit in this muscle, only 2 motor unit. Okay, and you have recruited both the motor unit, but your force is not adequate to do the job. What will you do? Then only things that is possible is to increase the frequency of discharge of this motor neuron. Getting my point or not? Okay, what I told, again I am explaining. Suppose I want to lift this hand. I have suppose 100 motor unit. Suppose I have recruited all of them, but still I am not able to lift my hand. What I will do? I can increase the frequency of discharge in the motor neuron. What will happen? Increase the frequency of discharge can also increases the force generated by the whole muscle. So you have two way to increase the force generation by the muscle. So I am writing increase force generation by the muscle, increase force generation in an intact muscle, increase force generation at muscle is possible by 2 ways. One, increase the recruitment of motor unit. Okay, but if motor unit recruitment is not possible, then you can also increase the frequency of motor neuron discharge. Okay, they can also increase your force generation. Now let's understand this second point, that how the frequency of motor neuron increases the force generation by the muscle. Okay, so to understand this, I am taking an example. Suppose I have taken one nerve. Nerve means it is composed of multiple neurons, and this is my skeletal muscle. So this is the whole muscle. Multiple muscle fiber is there inside. So this is nerve, this is muscle. I am measuring the force generation by the muscle and I am simultaneously stimulating this nerve. So whenever I am stimulating this nerve, so I am giving stimulation here, and after stimulation I am measuring what is the force or tension generated in this muscle. Okay. So if I give a single stimulation, what will happen? Muscle will contract followed by relax. Simple. So whenever I am giving a single stimulus, okay, now I am drawing one graph. Okay, so x-axis is time axis and y-axis is the tension or force in muscle. If I give a single stimulation at this point, arrow point, what will happen? There will be generation of action potential on this muscle membrane. First the action potential will be here, then action potential will go to the muscle membrane will generate action potential, then this muscle will contract. So muscle contraction followed by muscle relaxation. Okay, so this upward portion is the contraction and this downward portion is the relaxation. Now this single contraction followed by relaxation is known as simple muscle twitch. Okay, simple muscle twitch, SMT, we say SMT, simple muscle twitch. Okay, simple. If you give a single stimulus, muscle will contract followed by relax, but this contraction will not be able to lift this load completely. This is at the level of muscle will contract and then relax, simple muscle twitch. Now suppose at a quick interval, if I give a second stimulus to this neuron, so I am giving second stimulus, one stimulus I have given here followed by another stimulus, suppose this is applied here. So how it will looks like? Now the graph will looks like, again I am drawing the same type of curve in a different manner. Okay, so one stimulus here, I have got one contraction followed by relaxation, right? Then I have given a second stimulus here. Whenever I am giving second stimulus, I'll get another contraction and relaxation. Now look, what is happened to the height of second contraction? Increase. Look at the second contraction height is more than the first contraction. This increase in height of second contraction is known as beneficial effect. Beneficial effect. Question is, what do you mean by that? Why the height is increased? Okay, I know that this is beneficial effect. Tell me what is happening, why the height is increased. Okay, so whenever you give a first stimulation, some amount of calcium will be released inside this muscle at molecular level, right? That's why the contraction is going on. Then if you give a second stimulus with a quick succession, the calcium which is already released in the first contraction will not be able to move up inside the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Getting my point? Imagine that whenever you give a first stimulus, calcium release occur, and then we know calcium mopping up leading to relaxation. But if you give the second stimulus with quick succession, then calcium was already present from the first contraction. Now additional calcium is released due to second stimulus. So what is happening? Amount of calcium is more at the molecular level of muscle cell. What will happen to force of contraction? Increased. This second contraction height is increased. That's why it is said that the second contraction is getting benefited by the first contraction. That's why this is known as a beneficial effect. This is due to calcium. Although temperature effect is also there, reduced viscosity is also there. Now, rather than second stimulus, if I give multiple stimulus in a quick succession, okay, give. What is the problem? Give. So let's see what is happening. Okay, so if I give another kind of stimulus go on, what will happen? Then the third contraction height will be more, fourth contraction height will be more higher. Then after this fourth, no more height increment is possible. That means maximum height of contraction that is possible is 4 times than that of SMT, 4 times that of simple muscle twitch height. Getting my point? So if you go on giving the stimulation multiple, increase height, increase force generation will go on up to a certain limit. How much is the limit? 4 times that of SMT height. Why 4 times? After that, no more calcium waves will be available in the sarcoplasmic reticulum for release. That means height is fixed. So this step by step increment of height during this, step by step increment of height during this multiple contraction is known as TREPPE, TREPPE or staircase phenomena or staircase effect. Okay, getting my point? It's like a stair, height is rising gradually, TREPPE or staircase phenomena. So are you getting? If you give multiple stimulation, if you increase the frequency of discharge in a single muscle fiber, single motor neuron, then also you are getting more force of contraction. That's why I told that second way to increase the force in a muscle is increase the frequency of discharge. Okay, if you increase the frequency of discharge, height of contraction will rise by the staircase phenomena or TREPPE. Now, if the distance between these two stimulus or interval between these two stimulus is less than this, what will happen? That means I am saying if the second stimulus is falling within this area rather than at the end of complete relaxation, what will happen? Let's see. So third graph is coming. So now I have given one stimulus, muscle contraction, relaxation is going on, but relaxation in the halfway. That time I have given a second stimulus. So second contraction, second relaxation is going on, relaxation halfway, again I have given a stimulus. Third halfway, again I have given a fourth. So again the height is increasing, but here the relaxation is not complete. So here relaxation not complete. Okay, previously we have seen that second stimulus or third stimulus was falling at the end of complete relaxation. Now relaxation is not complete. Again I am getting a TREPPE phenomenon, but here rather than using the TREPPE, we use the word incomplete titanus. Incomplete titanus generation. This is known as incomplete titanus generation. Getting my point? So again you will get the increased force of contraction, okay, increased height of contraction, but in between muscle will not relax. In between, if the muscle is relaxing, then the contraction will be jerky like this. Okay, so suppose I am contracting, so this contraction is smooth. Now if the incomplete titanus is going on in the muscle, how the contraction will look like? It will be jerky like this. So we don't want this jerky type of contraction during our day-to-day activity. We want a smooth type of contraction with huge force. So what will you do? You have to remove this relaxation in between. In between this relaxation, I don't want. I want a smooth contraction with high force. So what I will do? I'll give more frequency of contractions. Okay, so I'll give stimulation which will be more frequent. Okay, so look how what will happen. Now I have increased the frequency more, so what will happen? First stimulus, one contraction going on, relaxation will start from this point, but before that I have given the second stimulus. So second contraction going on. Whenever the muscle is going to relax, I have given the third contraction going on. Then I have given the fourth contraction going on, and then if you maintain this stimulus, the muscle contraction height will remain fixed and it will sustain until and unless you stop this stimulation. This is known as complete titanus. Getting my point? So complete titanus means sustained smooth contraction without any relaxation in between. If the relaxation is partial, so this is known as incomplete titanus. If the relaxation is full and then the second contraction is going on, then that is known as trapeze or staircase phenomena. Look at the difference. This is very, very important for Central Institute exam. Okay, so trapeze, complete relaxation, then increase in height of contraction. Incomplete titanus, incomplete relaxation, then height of increase contraction. And complete titanus means there is no relaxation in between. Okay, smooth sustained contraction. So if you give this much frequency to a motor neuron or motor unit, what will happen? You are going to get a sustained smooth contraction, and this type of contraction normally occurs in all our muscle during our day-to-day activity. That's why you know whenever you contract, your muscle contraction is smooth, no in between jerky movement, and because of this contraction is complete titanus type of contraction, right? So whenever the motor neuron is giving, so start from the beginning. So brain is giving multiple stimulation to the motor neuron, lower motor neuron, and lower motor neuron is contracting. Lower motor neuron is giving contraction to the skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle contraction is going on which type? Complete titanus type, and that is leading to a smooth sustained contraction. Then when the discharge stop from the brain, relaxation is going on. This is the phenomena. That's why we say that in our body most of the contraction are normally complete titanus type of contraction. Now don't confuse this titanus word with the pathological tetanus produced by bacterial toxin. The mechanism of that tetanus we will discuss in the central nervous system. Don't confuse with the pathological tetanus. Okay, pathological tetanus, this relaxation will never occur. The sustained contraction will go on due to some bacterial toxin, tetanus toxin, all of you know, but don't confuse with that right now. Okay, so this is the property, property of the motor unit. I hope you have understood. Now you have to understand certain pathology of this motor unit. What are the pathology you have to remember? Suppose, before that let me draw delete this, right? So suppose this is a lower motor neuron supplying skeletal muscle fiber. Okay, skeletal muscle fiber. Due to disease, if this lower motor neuron is going to die, suppose the lower motor neuron is going to die, lower motor neuronal disease is starting in your body, what will happen? This neuron will start discharging spontaneously and pathologically. That means before death, the neuron is trying to survive as much as possible. So it will start discharging spontaneously, frequently, without any control from this brain. Okay, brain is not giving the discharge, but motor neuron is discharging spontaneously before death. That means when the death onset has started. So whenever this is discharging spontaneously, what will happen? The motor unit will also contract spontaneously and involuntary. This involuntary contraction of a single motor unit is known as fasciculations. Okay, so I'm writing this word Fasciculation, fasciculation. So fasciculation is what? This is involuntary and pathological contraction of a single motor unit. Motor unit means multiple muscle fiber will contract, but one single neuron will contract. One single neuron will discharge spontaneously and pathologically. That's why we know that lower motor neuron disease, when start in our body, fasciculation occurs in the muscle. So fasciculation, because single motor unit is contracting, multiple muscle fiber will contract, and that's why this contraction is grossly visible from the surface of the muscle. Grossly visible from the surface of the muscle. But when the lower motor neuron is more progressive, Okay, now suppose this lower motor neuron is completely dead, or you can imagine, suppose this neuron is cut, neuron is completely damaged. Now the brain is obviously not any control on this muscle, plus the individual muscle fiber which was supplying by this motor unit, the muscle fiber will be separated out. Separated out means they are not under the control of this neuron now. Okay, previously the three muscle fiber was under the control of this neuron. Now the neuron is completely dead. The neuron cell body is completely dead. This muscle fiber, this three muscle fiber, now they will behave as a single fiber. Okay, unity is not there. So whenever this thing occur, there is a phenomena which is known as denervation hypersensitivity. What do you mean by that? Means this individual muscle fiber, now they become very hyperactive to the smaller amount of ACH, acetylcholine. Okay, so this three fiber, so the three fiber are separated out. This three fiber, all three fibers are hypersensitive to acetylcholine effect. Means even if small amount of acetylcholine is present, this muscle fiber will start contraction individually and pathologically. Individual muscle fiber, when it is contracting, this is known as fibrillation. Fibrillation. Okay, so write down fasciculation I have written. Now just write down fibrillation. Fibrillation. So what is fibrillation? This is obviously involuntary, obviously pathological, but individual muscle fiber contract. Muscle fiber means muscle cell. Individual muscle fiber contraction is known as fibrillation. What I told, what is the reason of this contraction? This is due to denervation hypersensitivity. This is due to denervation hypersensitivity, and this will also be seen in case of lower motor neuron disease, but when the disease is usually progressed. Okay, initially fasciculation will be there, later on fibrillation. So do you think this fibrillation will be visible from the surface of the muscle? Answer is no, because single muscle fiber is contracting. Single muscle fiber contraction will never visible from the surface. You have to detect with the help of EMG, electromyographic recording. Okay, this is known as fibrillation and fasciculation. Now at the last, we'll see the difference between different muscle fibers. Okay, muscle fiber, just I told muscle cell, muscle fiber types. So I'm writing here types of muscle fiber, right? In our body, we all know red muscle fiber, white muscle fiber, this type of name you have heard. So that we are going to discuss basically here. Type of muscle fiber are of two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 2 again is divided into two, 2A and 2B, right? Now remember like this, type 1 muscle fiber, they are SO type. SO stands for, S for, remember like this is a slow muscle fiber, and O stands for oxidative. Metabolism of the muscle is oxidative type. Type 2, remember like this, they are FOG. So obviously F stands for fast, O stands for oxidative, and G stands for glycolytic. So metabolism is mainly glycolytic type. And type 2B, they are FG type. So obviously F stands for fast, so this is fast, and G stands for glycolytic. If you remember like this, your all the features will be done with this name only. Okay, so we are starting. What is the difference between all these three types? Okay, so SO, why the muscle is slow? Question like this, why the muscle is fast? Why the muscle is fast? Muscle, whether it is slowly contracting or rapidly contracting, depends on two things. One is the myosin ATPase enzyme. Remember the cross-bridge cycling, myosin ATPase enzyme. And second is SERCA, SERCA, sarcoplasmic endoplasmic reticulum calcium ATPase. These two enzymes. So, if your myosin ATPase and SERCA, sarcopump, if these two enzymes are slow in nature, then contraction and relaxation will be slow. And if this enzyme activity is very high, then muscle will be fast type. So please remember like this: myosin ATPase and sarcopump. This two activity is very slow in case of type 1 fiber, but this is high in case of type 2A, this is high in case of type 2B fiber. First thing. Then coming to the metabolism. Metabolism is oxidative. So oxidative metabolism, this is very high in case of type 1 fiber. In case of type 2A, this is moderate, and in case of type 2B, oxidative activity is very low. Am I clear? Okay, remember like this. So oxidative metabolism, okay, this is very high in case of type 1, moderately active in case of type 2A, and low in case of type 2B. Then what about glycolytic activity? Glycolytic activity. So obviously this is SO type of muscle, means glycolytic activity will be very low. Okay. But in case of FOG, oxidative glycolytic, both are there. So glycolytic activity is high here and glycolytic activity is also high here also. So this is done about the metabolism. Now think, if the muscle metabolic activity is oxidative type, oxidative is highly active in case of type 1 muscle fiber. So what you require? You have to supply more oxygen to the muscle. To supply more oxygen, you require more capillary. Not only capillary, you require more mitochondria, you require more oxidative enzyme which is present inside the muscle. So all of this thing, type 1 oxidative muscle fiber means capillary density of the muscle should be very high. Okay, so capillary density, second mitochondria, okay, third myoglobin, fourth cytochrome oxidase. All of this thing has to be very high in case of oxidative variety of muscle. Okay, so look at which muscle fiber are oxidative. Type 1 fiber, type 2A, it is also high here, but type 2B is purely glycolytic fiber. So this will be very low. So capillary density will be less, mitochondria will be less, myoglobin will be less, cytochrome oxidase enzyme will be less in all this way. So now, if the capillary density is very high, if the myoglobin is very high, what do you think? What will be the color or appearance of the muscle? This will be red. That's why the type 1 fiber is a red muscle fiber. Type 2A is also red muscle fiber. But where this capillary are very less, this muscle will behave like a white muscle fiber. Am I clear? Okay. So red muscle is type 1. Type 2A is also red muscle, but type 2B is white muscle. Now what are the white muscle or red muscle example? So example of this, red muscle means these muscles are fatigue resistant muscle. Please remember, these muscles are fatigue resistant. Why? Because the metabolism is oxidative type, huge amount of capillary. Why the muscle will fatigue? No. Similarly here, this is also fatigue resistant muscle. And the white type of fiber, they are easily fatigable muscle fiber. Easily fatigable muscle fiber. So think, which muscles you get easily fatigued? If you do exercise or gym with this muscle with huge 2 hours, 3 hours, obviously muscle will be fatigued. But look at your muscles in the back. You can maintain your posture without fatigue for hours. Okay, so that's why all muscles which maintain your posture, mainly the muscles at the back region, okay, muscles at the back, they are red muscles. But the small muscles of the hands, biceps, triceps, all are kind of mainly white muscle fiber. So muscles of hands, okay, finger, they are the white muscle. But just remember the last line. In our body, pure red, pure white muscle is never ever possible. Almost always there is mixture of red and white fiber in varying composition. Red muscle means predominantly red type of fiber. White muscle is predominantly white type of fiber. This is all about your skeletal muscle.